This event, the Tenacious Turtle Tussle, it is a region-locked event. It is region-locked to the land of the Americas. North America, Latin America, Oceania, and Southeast Asia as well. So we do our best to try to support some of these smaller regions that do need the support. And here we go, spawning in the top left-hand corner of Heartland. We have the American Zerg player representing Team Gosu. It is Reaper. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the American Terran player representing the Cranky Ducklings. It is Dolan. And as we get into this, a big shout out to Wooman12 in the chat. Thank you so much for the raid. Thank you so much for the support. We appreciate it. Hope you had a great stream. Hope you had a great ladder session as well. For those that are tuning in, this is the Tenacious Turtle Tussle. As we just mentioned, this is a bi-weekly tournament, region locked to the regions of North America, Latin America, Oceania, and the rest of Asia as well. No Europeans, no Koreans allowed. Not in this bi-weekly, not in this bi-weekly. Again, our goal here to support some of the smaller regions out there, and to show our love and support for, some of the smaller regions that do need it a little bit more as well. You know, the Korean scene has the KSL, the European scene has a lot of online weekly tournaments as well, and we do what we can. Especially because back in the day, there used to be more North American and Latin American events. We used to cast events like Battle of the Americas or Sentimiento Latino or Copa Hyperion. That events since have fallen by the wayside. So I'm happy to be covering this as Dolan. He's going for the special opener. He's going to be going for a low ground Rax. This is going to be leading into a full wall off with a factory later on. So it's a Rax expand into a factory here. It does allow you to construct this wall a little faster, to be a little bit greedier, to be able to cut some corners and be safer in the early game as well. And against a player like Reaper, this makes sense. It is a hatch pool gas opener, or a gasless opener actually here from Reaper. So we'll have faster queens, and we'll be able to get into faster links as well. My apologies, this was a 15 hatch actually. We did have a cancel earlier, so there we go. Meanwhile, the Overlord is going to be hunted down by Dolan. Going to be supply blocking Reaper for a moment. Reactor on the way. Oh, actually the factory will not be a part of the wall. We're going for a bunker instead, which I do appreciate. The downside of throwing down your factory here as a part of the wall does mean that you have to you do leave yourself a little bit vulnerable when you go for add-on swaps, and your natural base becomes really congested because typically your starport has to be down here as well to add-on swap as well. But yeah, Dolan is going to be throwing down his factory on the high ground into a Rax, actually a 2-1-1 setup. Let's go. A straight up 2-1-1. There's the starport on the way. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. 2-1-1s have fallen out of favor, especially with the revelation of the 3cc variation of 2-1-1, which is a little more macro oriented. So this is actually quite aggressive. It's very aggressive out of Dolan. And this also means that there's a lot of pressure on Dolan to get damage done with this first double drop. Essentially, we're going to be building up our marine count. We're going to be hitting with stim. We should be seeing an add-on swap between this Rax and the factory. Yep, there we go. We're seeing the... Actually... Wait, oh god. No, we're seeing the add-on swap with the starport, not with the Rax. So we're going into a Banshee? Okay. 2-on-1 Banshee, not something you see too often. Okay, so this is something that Maru and Byun do. The reasoning for this is, okay, so to put things into perspective, the way that a 2-on-1 works is that you do hit a timing with 16 Marines and 2 medevacs and stim. That's the goal of this setup. And if your opponent reads that you're going for a 2-Rax opener like this, they're going to be obviously prioritizing preparation for that eventual marine push, which is why Cloak Banshees are they catch you off guard, because there is no reason to throw down spores when going up against a 2-Rax opener. If you're up against a 1-1-1, which is like Hellions, which lead into Banshees or Liberators, then that's when you throw down spores. But at this level of play, Zerg players, they want to be very efficient. They don't want to make spores if they don't need spores. So this is designed to catch Reaper completely off guard. Meanwhile, speaking of being caught off guard, Reaper, he's going for a Roach Warren. He did open up Gasless earlier, so as a Zerg player, typically if you open up Gasless, oh my god, as he is throwing down spores, but he doesn't know what's happening. So Reaper is playing safe, so he will get spores. He actually hasn't scouted, he doesn't really know what is amassing and what is going on. So I appreciate this gambit out of Dolan, but as we can see, the Cloaked Banshees shouldn't really do too much here as spores are being thrown down. But what I was getting at is that earlier we did see a gasless opener out of our Zerg player. Typically when you go gasless, you skip link speed because you're delaying your gases by so much already. Banshee does arrive, worker goes down, but because you're delaying your gases by so much, typically you skip link speed, you skip Balins, you go straight into roaches instead. That is what Reaper is doing. As the Banshee comes back in, and we're actually finding some drones. Drones are going down. Yo, a big shout out to Macintac in there. Oh, let's go. The small Zerg, Papi. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for the raid. Hope you had a great stream. It's great to see you returning to StarCraft. Big shout out to Macintac from the land of the North Americas, the Americans. Thank you so much. Do appreciate it. Hope you had a great time. Hope you had a great stream. And here we go. The double drop is moving out. Is moving out across the map. The Banshees were able to get a couple of worker kills. 3 drones did go down, and here comes that double drop towards the main base. We do have some roaches in position and some queens as well at the natural, but the main is looking that much more exposed, and that's exactly where Dolan is headed. Behind this, he's taking his third base. And again, the third has been heavily delayed, so we have to get damage done. We do manage to dive on top of the queen. The queen will go down. We get into the mineral line as well. Drones are falling. Oh my god, 5 workers already. And from here, we should be picking up. We should be getting the hell out of here as the queens have arrived, and we do lose a couple of marines. But all in all, that was a good drop. We got a queen, we got 5 workers, we disrupted the mining time here at the natural, and behind this, Reaper is taking a 4th base. He's taking all of his gases as well, doubling down on roach production. Of course, now Dolan is aware of the roach army. Earlier, he hadn't quite seen the tech. As back at home, he's just getting into a more of a bio tank setup. Again, tanks are going to be crucial here to defend, and Reaper is going to be looking to hit a timing here with his upgrades. So we have Roach Speed on the way alongside 1-1 as well. Everything is lined up here for this eventual assault, and Reaper is just hyper-fixated on Roach Ravager. And what do we have at home to defend? Only 1 Banshee as well, unfortunately. If we had additional Banshees, we could have more of a presence on the map to punish these Roaches once they do move out and even focus on the Ravagers. I do appreciate Dolan being active here with this double drop. He needs to be. But he does have to be careful. Doesn't want to bleed out too many units here on the front lines. We have 2 tanks in position here at the natural. It looks like Dolan is prepared to potentially lift up and evacuate his 3rd if the push does come. As Dolan moves out with a 2nd double drop here on the left-hand side. He's splitting up his forces, trying to pull apart Reaper, and again, this is the downside of Reaper's army. It's beefy, it's big, it's beautiful, but it's also immobile, and it's having a hard time keeping up here with the drop play of Dolan. A lot of creepers being cleaned up. Is he looking? No! He is not looking. 1 medevac does get piled down. Good pick off here from Reaper, as he barely doesn't get that medevac, and now he's working on that push we were talking about earlier. Reaper is cutting workers at 65. That is 3 base saturation. No saturation at this 4th. This is only being used for larva. The rocks are knocked down, and we are pushing towards this 3rd. The tank is repositioning here on the low ground. Bunker is about to finish up, but there are just so many roaches here. Reaper, he is maxed on Roach Ravager. He's pushing on forward. And I just don't know if we have enough here to defend, to protect the tanks even. Yeah, first, the 2nd tank does go down. The boys are being pulled, SCVs are falling, and Reaper, he is breaking this base. He's getting on top of the tanks as well. And this is just becoming far too much. Dolan is able to save one of those tanks at least, but yeah, the Biles will clean it up. 17 SCVs went down, and Dolan will hold, but did sustain a lot of losses. And meanwhile, behind this Reaper, he can just remax. He can just do it again and again and again, as he's remaxing here on more Roach Ravager. Dolan, now with a crippled economy, the pressure is on him to somehow do some counter damage. We could try to drop, but alas, there's nothing to really kill here at the 4th base. He's moving in that direction, does come across the Roaches. So does try to focus down the Ravagers, does not get them though. We do have 1 tank remaining here for Dolan. The Banshee is going to be able to put in some work. This is what I mentioned earlier, that if we did open up with multiple Banshees, then we would be able to keep up here with the Roach army and punish it a little bit more. speaking of punishing it, we are headed towards that 4th base. Spore not quite done, and we're going to be able to get some economic damage done. Let's go. We do deny mining time here at the 4th. Dolan, he's still in this. It's looking a little bit bleak, but we're still in this. And a big shout out to Pig really early on, actually. Thank you so much for the raid. Hope you had a great stream. Hope you had a great time casting a morning of StarCraft. Good morning, Papi. It's pretty early on. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great time. Hope you slept this morning as well. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to our bi-weekly event, the Tenacious Turtle Tussle. Oh, it's beautiful. Look at it. Once again, we got a couple of raids today already, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but for those curious, this is an event that is region locked. This is region locked to the Americas and to Asia as well. Basically, Europeans and Koreans do not compete in this tournament. This is an event that we host for some of the smaller regions out there, and here we go. The tanks do get caught out. One tank does get biled. As Dolan is reinforcing, pushing on forward here on the right-hand side. He only has 2 tanks with this army. But he's getting on top of the Ravagers. The Bailing's out of position. Oh, and we're going to try to fight off of Creep. The tanks are left exposed, though. They will go down. The good target firing on the Bailings, but alas, we do have to pick up. So do barely avoid the vials. And Reaper is making his way towards the 3rd base once again. Dolan going to try and sandwich this army, though. Coming in from behind, reinforcing with tanks. The vials will not connect. Some of them will. But we do close the distance. We get on top of these Ravagers. The fungal, though, is something that we have to be careful of. We have to be wary of. There's 1 fungal left here with this army. As Dolan heads towards that 4th base. Tank once again is going to get biled down. But it's not about the tanks, it's about the bio army. As Dolan is snowballing out of control, he takes down the 4th base. And this army from Reaper just hasn't been efficient enough. The Bailings, they crash in, but there are so many Marauders. Dolan may have almost died earlier, but almost was not good enough. He stims on forward, he stutter steps forward as well, takes down the Infestors, and Dolan has too much. He snowballed out of control, and Reaper just can't keep up. Not anymore. GG gets called, and Dolan takes game number 1. GG. GG, well played. Things were looking a little bit bleak, not gonna lie. Things were looking rough for Dolan initially, where he wasn't able to hold on to his base. He lost 17 SCVs as well, but his bio army did snowball out of control. And again, Roach Ravager doesn't really scale too well as the game goes on. There is a bit of a time limit on it. It does have an expiration date, and yeah, after the initial defense, Dolan was able to get into his game, was able to get into that big counterattack, and he's up in the series. Let's go. GG. GG, well played. Now we're getting ready for game number 2. Oh, that's a lot of bacon in the chat. You're making me hungry, Pat. I haven't eaten breakfast yet. It's still midday here in Australia, and we woke up. We're right for the cast. We're here for your bacon. We don't have any, Pat. Give me some bacon. Excuse me. You know what they say about turtles? The head only comes out of one hole of its shell. Oh. Shaking my head, Cyberjohn. But here we go. Spawning in the top left-hand corner of Site Delta, we have the American Zerga player representing Team Gosu down in the series, but not out. Not by any means. It is Reaper. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the American Terran player. He is one of our own. He is representing the Cranky Ducklings. It is Dolan. Alright, let's go. Once again, Dolan setting up for that low ground Rex. Setting up that wall ahead of time. Back at home, Reaper going for a 15 hatch once again. Sorry, for a 14 hatch actually. There was no cancelled gas geyser. Very interesting. This is the Reaper that I know and love. For those wondering, Reaper, he is the cheesiest Zerg player in all of the Americas. I'm sure Pig has hit him many a time on the ladder. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. So it's a 14 hatch into a 15 pool. There we go, 15 spawning pool has been thrown down. Behind this, Dolan is going to be going into a 2-racks opener back at home. Low ground 2-racks here from Dolan. This should be for Reaper production. I say it should be for Reaper production, but we'll see, because I know Future has a Marine variation of this, where you bank up Marines early on, but based on the rally, it should... Oh, wait, no, yeah, we don't have any gases yet. Yeah, it's going to be the Marine variation. Okay. Dolan, have you been watching Future? Future, of course, another American Terran player, and yeah, so this is a just really greedy variation. The reason why I say this, and the reason why 2-racks, or like going for Reaper openers is considered a little bit safer, of course, is because with Reapers, you get to harass across the map, you get to contain your opponent, delay the third base, but also, more importantly, scout. Scout and make sure that your opponent isn't rushing into roaches or going for any kind of early gas timing. With these Marines, Dolan is going to be stuck at home. Thankfully, he is going for an SCV scout. I don't think this is something that Future does. Future, he's just greedier than this even. The SCV does confirm the hatch timing, is going to be checking for a third base as well. And we'll see what Reaper brings for us here, as he does take an earlier gas geyser compared to last game. Remember, in game 1, Reaper did open up gasless, which is why he ended up going into roaches. Overlord is going to be hunted down, even lifting up one of those racks is floating it over. Dolan, he wants it, man. He wants it. And this isn't just a 2-racks opener. We have a 3rd racks in the main base. We could even go up to 4 racks. This could be a 4-racks opener. Reaper, I was curious what the gas is going to be used for, and we are going straight for that lair. And again, if we had Reapers, we could scout this, but we don't. So Dolan is in the dark. He's moving out with his Marines, and he's checking once again for a third base that does not exist. And he's not going to be able to figure out what exactly is going on. Now, this could be a couple of different things. We do have a Roach Warren on the way, no link speed. It looks like we're just going to be rushing into Roach speed from here. That would make sense. It's a little bit too early, and we don't really have enough gas to afford an immense amount of Roaches, as well as a Nidus Worm. If there was no Roach Warren, if we had link speed, I would expect this to be a Link Queen Nidus all-in, but there we go. All gases are being taken. Spire play? Mutas? With 4 gases, this makes sense. 2-base Muta? Strange. I was looking forward to it. Okay, it's gonna be 2-base Roach. Roach speed is on the way. Back at home, Dolan, he's just building up his 4-racks Marine army. Now, this is not all in, but this is committed. What I mean by this is that typically, if you're familiar with some of the Korean Terran players, Byun would do this quite a lot. Kira as well. This was actually quite popular a couple of months ago, back when Byun's 2-racks opener was kind of in everyone's mind and was at the forefront of TVZ meta. 4-axes were quite popular indeed. We are going to be building up towards a stim timing. Now, this is committed because we don't really have a medevac with this, right? We're delaying a lot of our tech. We're delaying our third base in favor of this push, and we have to be very careful with it as well. Because there are no medevacs, every single stim hurts. Every single stim matters. We're going to have 1, maybe 2 stims available here with this army, and we can't waste it as we are moving out across the map. Now, unfortunately for Dolan, he's pushing into essentially a 2-base all-in. Third base is being taken behind this, to be fair. Roaches are on the way. But Roaches, they are beefy units here, and Reaper, will he have enough to hold on? We have 7 more Roaches in production. We have a couple of Queens here for Transfuse. The army has been spotted. There was a Changeling here outside the base. The Changeling already a little bit suspect. A lair this early on doesn't make any sense, and we scan ahead of time. We see the Roach army, and we stim on forward. The Roaches, they just back off. The Queens will be hunted down. Going to be able to deny that Ravager as well, even getting an Overlord, and we should deny this base. Roaches are coming, and they want to force another stim. Oh, and yeah, Dolan has to back off. He cannot contest against this army. We mentioned before that he already stimmed once. Oh, and he's going to be forced to stim again to race back home. Oh. There are plenty of Marines lying in wait, thankfully. But Reaper is not joining. Reaper, he is not saturating this third base. He's sending everything across the map. Just pure Roach Ravager. And without tanks, this is going to be a tough hold for Dolan. Again, no medivacs either. These Marines, they're wounded from earlier on, and they're not going to be healed up. Whilst they will zone back the army. Marauders in production. Dolan up against the wall. Deepers are going to be going down. Concussive Shell going to be denied as well. Do you have a tank that is arriving? But the production is exposed, and Dolan is going to be hurting here. As Reaper just dip back in, deny another Rax. We're heavily supply blocked as well. 3 depots thrown down. Even by calling down that extra supply, it's just not enough to break us free. And this 2-base Roach Ravager all in is snowballing out of control. The boys have to be pulled. But even with the boys, it's not going to be enough. Both tanks go down. And we are cleaning up the Ravagers, to be fair. But that's 21 SCVs falling. That is going to be everything here at the natural base. There's nothing left. GG gets called. And Reaper will take game number 2. We have a series. We have a series. Let's go. GG, well played. We're going all the way to game number 3. And that was essentially a bit of a hard counter. So what was interesting about this game is that Reaper didn't know what was happening. Reaper didn't scout. If you remember, his initial Overlord was killed. Was killed very early on. So again, Reaper was playing in the dark. He was blindly going 2-base Roach. Meanwhile, Dolan was also blindly going 4-axe against 2-base Roach as well. So yeah, it was a rough build to encounter between the two players. Almost a build order loss for Dolan. Again, Roaches out early on, they're quite tanky and they're ideal against defending against a bio-heavy army like that early on. And yeah, very well done. Very well played by Reaper. Reading Dolan quite well. I don't know if he really expected that out of Dolan, but things worked out well nonetheless. And we're working towards game number 3. And spawning in the top right-hand corner. Oh my. Did the colors change? This is a very different shade of green. Spawning in the top right-hand corner of Hecate, we have the American Zerg player representing Team Gosu. Tying up the series 1-1 in the last game, it is Reaper. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the American Terran player representing the Cranky Ducklings, being forced into the ace match. It is Dolan. Oh, let's go. Reaper living up to his name again. He is the cheesiest Zerg player in the Americas, and he's going to be going for a proxy hatch across the map into a spawning pool. Let's go. Again, proxy hatches are something that you see a lot more frequently against Protoss, not against Terran. So a bold move here from Reaper. Now what I will say is that, again, because both of these players are native to the Americas, Dolan is familiar with Reaper's playstyle. They are familiar with each other. So I'm sure Dolan is aware that this is a possibility. But this is the problem with playing against Reaper, is that even though you know he's cheesy, you don't really know what kind of cheese, right? He has so much up his sleeve. He could go for a Bane Bust, a Roach Rush, 2-base Muta, or even a proxy hatch. And we have an SCV coming across the map. This is also why I don't think I like going Marine first, I'll be honest. Obviously, the Marines, they allow you to shut down the Overlord, but the problem as well as we go for a Racked Expand is that without Reapers, you have very limited scouting information, and I feel like scouting is paramount against Reaper. I feel like it's something that you require. As I say that, SCV Scout comes in, confirms the lack of expansion, and we should be able to get eyes on the Roach Warren as well. Yeah, both gases have been confirmed. Roach Warren has been spotted. Dolan now knows what's going on. But does he really? Because this is going to hit faster than I think he expects. Because this proxy hatch, we have plenty of lava to work with. We're waiting for the Roach Warren to finish up, and Roaches will soon be upon us. Meanwhile, we have a bunker on the way, a factory as well. We need to get into tanks, or even a cyclone. Cyclones would help as well, to be fair. Need to get into an army that can deal with said Roaches. Second bunker now on the way. There it is, Cyclone in production. Starport as well. Because of the change to the Cyclone, this does actually make defense a little bit easier. For those wondering, you don't need a tech lab to build the Cyclone anymore. You can make it without any add-ons, or even reactor them out. But here we go, Ravagers are on the way. The Overlord is still alive as well. If this Overlord had been hunted down, then maybe we can slow this down. But we have high ground vision, and we can bile away at this wall. Can we repair in time? Up! We barely can. Repairs are upon us. Ravagers are being forced back as well. Okay, nice pullback there from Dolan, keeping his SCVs alive. Getting quite a bit of damage done on this army already. But we have more roaches in production. Have more roaches on the way. If we can somehow get a lock-on on this Overlord, then we can shut this down. Or we can have an easier defense here. So far, not able to take anything down. We have a Banshee on the way here for Dolan. And a Banshee would be enough to hold. Behind this, Ling's speed is on the way. We are doubling down here on the all-in. Looks like we plan to flood Lings. That will make things difficult here for Dolan. He's going for his expansion, going for the high ground CC. Now, once the Banshee arrives, we can focus on all these Ravagers. The Ravagers, they can go down one after the other. Depending on how long it takes to get into the Ling Flood, the Banshee will not be able to help much against that. But if the Ravagers fall first, that means that we can't bust through the wall. The role here of the Ravagers is to bust through the bunker, bust through the depot, and then the Lings flood in from there. God, is the Banshee going for the army or going for the economy? I understand the logic of going across the map, but... Okay, here we go. We do come across the Ravagers, and we will focus them down. Oh, God, no! Wiles will not quite connect. One Ravager falls. Queen does arrive. A fusion core? No shot. That feels too greedy, Pop. We're going for BCs. Just commit to the Banshees. That's all we need. As the Banshee does retreat, we're building up additional Cyclones. Banshee is going to be repaired back at home. And this is just a really greedy thing. Basically, we could have a second Banshee, maybe even a third Banshee by the time the BC comes out. So this is a very greedy maneuver. The BC takes a long time to build. I mean, it is a secure way to win, don't get me wrong. That is the win condition for Dolan, but... Lings are banking. Like, Reaper is not macroing from here. We're just flooding Lings across the map. And we are committing to the all-in. The Cyclones leave! Ay, ay, ay.
Command center upgrade.
Dolan, he's going across the map to cripple the economy, but little does he know that, yeah, we're going for our own all-in, and do we have enough at home to defend? As another Ravager does get picked off, and Reaper, he doesn't commit. He's waiting a little bit longer. He's giving Dolan a chance, and here we go. He pulls the trigger of the Abu. Banshee does back off. Cyclones are getting caught out by Lings. And again, I don't think this is the best use of the Cyclones, but we'll see as they do get into the mineral line. Yeah, they are disrupting the economy. They're forcing all the Lings back home, and the Lings will clean this up. Which is also why I didn't really like this move. The Cyclones go down. We did disrupt the economy a little bit. Looking at the units tab here, we killed 4 drones. But hey, you know what's important though? The BC arrives. The battlecruiser has arrived. And with this battlecruiser, I think we're fine. For the most part. I do think we're fine. We're building up an army. Scan ahead of time. There is no Yamato. Yamato's still on the way. And the BC just dives on the queens as well. Clutch transfuse. But the first queen will fall. The second queen as well. Yeah, and Reaper, he just has to aim it. He just has to commit here with his army. There's no other way about it. The Biles will not connect. Dolan, he holds onto the ramp. Ooh, does take some rough shots to the face. But he will clean up all the Lings, most of the Ravagers. And Reaper cannot break this location. He's droning. He's saturating the ninja base. What else can he do? And GG gets called. He knows that he cannot break the natural, and Dolan will advance on to the upper bracket finals. GG. Ooh. Oh my god. GG, well played. Dolan will be able to fight back in this series and take it in the end. But a shout out to Reaper as well. Did end up forcing the ace match, and Reaper is still in this tournament because it's double elimination. It is a double elimination, so Reaper will have another chance in the lower bracket. As we do just get a quick glance at the scores. And up next, we have Nice versus Dolan. Oh, let's go. So just making sure we're not missing any players. And yeah, I will just set some things up here. We do have a forfeit again. Saber Saberlight was not quite here. So Reaper versus Eon is going to be ongoing in that lower bracket as we focus our attention on Dolan versus Nice.